Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome to another Doctor Who related video. Now, I've not done a Doctor Who video for a little bit, so I thought I'd get back to it. Now, in this video, as you can tell, I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I was in charge of Doctor Who. Now, funnily enough, my second ever video on this channel was a Doctor Who video, and it was me talking about how I would fix Doctor Who around that time, which was, I think, just before Series 10 had aired. However, this is not going to be that. This is going to be slightly different in the sense of it's going to be similar to the situation of 2005. There's a total blank slate, I'm in charge of bringing Doctor Who back, and I'm the showrunner. What would I do? I mean, I'm not literally going to say this is who I would cast and this is what episode 1 would be like and go into great detail, just like a general overview of what I personally would do if I was the showrunner. So, first and foremost, the Doctor. Now, apart from myself, I don't actually know who I would cast. I'm only messing, I wouldn't cast myself because I can't really act. But I think in terms of the Doctor, it's a bit of a tricky one because it all depends on who's available at the time, who can you get. Do you go with someone who is a relative big name? Do you go with an unknown? Me personally, I think I would lean more towards an unknown because, I mean, look at some of the actors that have played the Doctor before. They were relatively unknown and Doctor Who was their definitive part, Tom Baker being the prime example. In terms of the age of actor I would get, I don't know. So someone asked me a while ago, do I think that the Doctor could be very young in terms of like teenage years? Part of me thinks yes, it's possible. But part of me thinks there is kind of a limit as to how young the Doctor can actually be. The worrying thing is you can end up with an actor who is, you know, 16, 17, and they can do the sort of older person in a young person's body, but maybe they'd be annoying at the same time. I don't know. For me personally, I think 30 to 60 is probably the age range that I would go when looking for that actor. Just someone who is capable of being a bit weird, as well as humour, serious, quite grounded, can be quite gritty, just an all-round actor really with a slightly off personality. That's kind of my ideal. In terms of the companion or companions, now for me, I actually quite like two. I like two companions in the TARDIS. I don't know why. I just think that that dynamic works quite well. You look at Sarah and Harry, Amy and Rory, Jamie and Zoe, like these are some of my favourite TARDIS teams, so I would edge more towards that. However, in terms of specifics, like actors and whatever, I have no idea. It all depends on who you get as the Doctor and what sort of thing that you're looking for, but I know for a fact that my companion or companions would not be from modern day Earth. I would have, if I'm having two companions, I'd have someone from the past, maybe something like World War II, because I actually just quite like that era in time, and the other one would be an alien. Now, whether that's a human from a colony far away into the future or an actual alien, I don't know, but something like that, because I think I'm sick to death of modern Earth companions because they don't offer anything different. Like, they are essentially the same character changed somewhat. And I know that might sound a little bit unfair to certain characters, but it's true. They don't offer anything new in terms of their experiences, what they know, what they can do. Whereas someone from the past, them seeing the future and seeing where things end up, could be a really interesting dynamic. Same with an alien, like coming back to Earth, for example. Oh, how different was it? Or they maybe know certain things. So, for example, on Patreon recently, I did a review of Frontios. And one thing that I really liked in that story was the fact that Turlo knew the aliens in that story, and it properly freaked him out. And there's a story that you can tell from that angle. So I think there's much more that you can do with companions who are out of time, as it were, or from another planet, than you ever could now with just modern day Earth, because they all just blend into each other at this point. Now, in terms of stories specifically, well, here's the thing. I do have story ideas, but the thing is, I'm never going to be showrunner. I know, not with that attitude. But the point is, I'm not. However, I am tempted to do like an audio series. I know a lot of people are doing audio series and fan films and stuff, and I don't want to dilute the waters, but I'd be quite interested to do them in some way, shape or form. So just as a little segue in the middle of this video, if you want me to do an audio series, then let me know. But yes, in terms of actual stories, I don't necessarily know specifically episode 1 would be this and blah, 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 blah. However, I've got a few ideas of what I would do for different stories as well as a story arc. So for me personally, I'd love to see something is totally fucking wrong with time. And the thing is, I know that this has slightly been done before, but as in someone, but we don't know who, has totally wrecked time. So the Second World War is still going on during the 1950s as an example. Stuff like that, and everything throughout time is wrong. Maybe two time periods are crossing each other at the same time, so maybe there's, I don't know, maybe over a bridge, like on one side it's 2021, on the other side it's 1873, and they've got to close that gap. So, you know, stuff like that. I would love to see stories that play around with time a hell of a lot more, and I would definitely try and incorporate that. I think tonally, I'd love to make Doctor Who darker. Now, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. The tone and the general sort of vibe of season 21, season 22, I really, really like. And listen, I know that there's a limit. There is only so much you can get away with in Doctor Who before it becomes Torchwood level, or maybe even worse. The stuff in season 21, 22, in terms of like how brutal it can be, in terms of how dangerous it can be, I love that. I love that Doctor Who felt like it had consequences. You can't just flutter around the universe willy-nilly and everything is fine in the end. That's one thing that really grated on me about the Moffat era, was the fact that a story like World Enough and Time, oh, that's so dark and gritty and everything, but it has to have a happy ending. Nah, fuck that. Stick the landing. Stories like Resurrection of the Daleks, where countless amounts of people die because that, obviously it's Daleks, they're gonna kill people. Cybermen converting people, as opposed to, listen, I love Earthshock, and as great as that is as a story, it doesn't really feel like a Cyberman story, because they are just a brute force. They don't really convert anyone or try and convert anyone. I want to see more stuff like that, and obviously with new villains as well, the possibilities are endless. And I don't want it to just be like this horrible, awful, bloody show. I don't want that at all. Obviously, I am still planning on having that light-hearted edge there, but I do think that Doctor Who needs consequences, and it does need a bit of an edge to it again. It just needs something to make people realise that, yes, travelling with the Doctor, it can be very fun. However, you could also die or get people killed. I'd love to do a really claustrophobic story, like maybe there's like an abandoned space station that used to be a prison ship, and one of the prisoners is still on there, and it's like, maybe it's a new villain, maybe it's a Dalek, who's to say, and instead of, well, we have to just defeat the Dalek, it's like, we need to figure a way off this ship, because otherwise if that gets to us, we're in some serious trouble. And then add little well, not Easter eggs, but little tidbits along the way and obstacles that they have to get over. Something like that. I'd really like to do stories like that. I think as well, maybe make the Doctor darker, or make the Doctor vulnerable to the point where the Doctor maybe not turns evil, but becomes the villain. Somewhat like Time Lord Victorious, I guess. But just something new for the Doctor's character, because let's face it, changing the gender of the Doctor isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. How does that change the Doctor's character? It doesn't. Put the Doctor through something, or change the Doctor's personality because of regeneration, to the point where this character is in new situations and does think differently and does do things differently. Like, I don't see how this sort of archetypal template of the Doctor can keep going. Something needs to give. You know, I was really disappointed with Peter Capaldi's era in the end, because Series 8 gave us that sort of interesting, darker Doctor, and then Series 9 ripped it up and was like, nope, here's Mad Space Uncle again. Maybe I just like death and destruction. In terms of like specific writers and directors, I don't know. I mean, I've always said I would love Charlie Brooker and Steve Pemberton, Rhys Shearsmith. I would love them to write a script for Doctor Who. In terms of directors, well, Peter Jackson has said that he's wanted to do one for years now. Let's get him to do it, why not? In terms of like new villains, I think Doctor Who is at its best when it takes something from the real world and turns it into a threat. So let's just look around. A Pan, maybe the Pan Men, why not? Let's have them. I don't know, but I really want to see more story arcs, more messing with time travel, darker stories, consequences, creepy stories. I think that's what Doctor Who really needs, and it would be, for me at least, the change that Doctor Who needs probably right now. But if it was to go off air and come back, I would love to see it like that. Yes, of course, I've probably undersold how light-hearted it would be in places in my version of Doctor Who. Of course it's going to be light-hearted. Like, you've got to have that sense of sci-fi, fantasy, adventure in there. And of course, I wouldn't get rid of that. But I just feel like it needs both sides for it to properly be the Doctor Who that I want it to be. In the comments below though, guys, let me know what you think, first of all, about whether I should do that audio series and whether what I've just said would make you want to see it or hear it more or less. But also, what would you do with Doctor Who if you were in charge of it? Any specific casting choices? I know I didn't really specifically say anyone, but, or at least an archetype of who you would get. Any story ideas you might have? I'm not going to nab them, I promise. Whatever they are, let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description as always. So if you'd follow me on any of those things, well, I'd absolutely love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.